What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Mental Corner podcast, the show where I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk all the things mental health. I'm your host, Harry Potvin, and if you can't tell by my voice, the allergies this season have been kicking my ass. So today has probably been the worst day so far, so I'm going to try to keep this intro very brief so you don't have to listen to my congested voice anymore. So for this episode of the show, I am joined by Jim Shoopack. Jim is a guy who overcame suicidal thoughts and depression to not only earn his doctorate and become a teacher, but to also complete 21 marathons for mental health awareness. Jim was so much fun to talk to, and I wanted to thank him again for coming on and having this discussion with me. Now, before we get started here, guys, you know the drill. If you're listening, please like, comment, share, subscribe, give 5 stars if you're on that podcast platform. Share with someone who might want to hear this episode. It's a really great one, and I can't wait for you to listen. I'm about to crash and have a nap. I'll talk to you all very soon. Peace. Jim, what's going on, man?
Not much. How are you today?
I'm good. The weather's finally getting warm. I can see out your window that you feel the same way.
Yeah, it's sunny it's about in the 60s. I'm trying to think centigrade. I don't know, maybe like 15. I'm not sure, 20-ish, which is for here, for now. God bless America. It is like amazing. Because recently it has been more like 0 centigrade, 32, like in the 30s for us. I don't know, maybe single digits for you folks, 2, 3, 4 centigrade. But man, it's nice to be able to just walk outside with like maybe a long sleeve shirt and shorts or something like that, as opposed to having to get bundled up and worry about like getting windburn, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel that, like Canada, because I always promote and tell people that going on walks in nature is like really good.
Yeah.
Like it's prime. But like, when it was minus 19, it was like no one wants to do that. Or like when the snow's up to your knees, it's like, ugh. So when I went outside and I was like, I'm actually sweating in a t-shirt. I'm like, yes, I need this.
Oh no, I agree. I'm the same way. Like, it's like, if it's around 0, centigrade, 32 Fahrenheit, and there's no wind, I'm okay. I can do my walk. Once the wind hits and it's around, forget it. I'm okay. And what stinks is I'm a member of a gym, but I'm not going to the gym right now because of the whole COVID thing. So I'm kind of like, I have the time to go now, but I choose not to go now, so eventually I will. Like, I just got vaccinated as a teacher. We were able to, I guess, get higher up on the list, and I got vaccinated last Friday. So, that being said, though, it still stinks because I'm still not going to go just yet. Maybe in the summer. But the thing is, in the summer, I can work out outside too.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, you need an outlet, anything to relieve some of that stress. Especially now, like, you feel like a caged animal if you're not working out or if you're not moving your body. And a lot of us aren't. So
no,
warm weather will be good. It finally, it's like everyone just took a sigh of relief.
Oh yeah. And even just the sun, it's just nice having the sun. Like, if it's not cloudy, I can take sunny, and I don't know, if it's cooler out, but if it's cloudy, it's just so blah, like, I don't know. That's just me. But I mean, like, if I see the sun, I'm like such a better mood, like, just overall, like, it just,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's like a big warm hug.
Yeah, you're right. From nature, really, if you think of it. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, man. So where does your whole story with mental health, like, where does your journey start?
Well, it depends. Like, there's two potential starts. Now, I'll start with the first one. Well, no, actually, let me do it this way. The one is when I was about 20 years ago, 26 years old. And I started to feel, basically, I was pretty upbeat, pretty laid back, like the whole bit. And I started to feel not like myself, like, basically that someone pushed who I am out of my body and replaced it with someone who was just easily angered, someone who wanted to sleep all day, someone who started to have suicidal thoughts, someone who, like, I would sit down and say every minute seemed like an hour, every hour seemed like a day, every day seemed like, and it was just the never ending day. And when I would get to nighttime, I was happy, like as happy as I could be, because I got to sleep, because I didn't want to be up. I just wanted to sleep, so that's kind of where, and I was living like that for about 100 days, really inside my own head, and I was afraid to say anything because I'm like, such a stigma with, I was scared. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know what the next step was, because it's like, what happens if I say something? The uncertainty, I think, is what kind of scared me to a degree. I have a very loving and caring, like, my parents are awesome. My brother, I was at home at that point in time, with my parents per se, like, but so it had nothing to do with them. They were very supportive once everything, came to head, but so it had nothing to do with them. It was just more of the uncertainty of me, like what I put in my own head at that respect. So for 100 days, I started, I just lived like that. And I use the word loosely, quote unquote, live, because it wasn't really living, I'll be honest with you. And a friend of mine who, unfortunately, he passed away of a heart attack, but good guy, he had depression. And I remember him telling me, he's like, Jim, is everything okay? And I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, I don't think so. He's like, well, I said, why do you ask? He said, well, because you have a lot of the symptoms of depression, and he himself had it. So, like, for me, it was like, I'm like, well, let me look this up. He's like, why don't you look it up? So I looked it up. I tell you, Harry, I had every single symptom. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it was like the happiest I had been. It was like I got my own endorphin rush, because I was like, oh my gosh, how I feel actually has a name. This is great. Like, now, was I happy like I am now? No, but it was like, I know that it has a name. I must have taken a look at about 10 different depression sites just to say, like, wait, are these really the symptoms? Are these really this? And I printed them out, because I was basically self-diagnosing I called I emailed my primary care physician and set up an appointment with her. And I basically said, I was like, I think I have clinical depression. I said, can I meet with you? She actually was the mom of some youth group kids, because at that point in time, I was a youth leader at my church. So I said, can I meet with you? Blah, blah, blah. So, well, wound up going. And it was one of these, like, she's like, yeah, no problem. And I was not gonna lie, I was embarrassed. I just scared, maybe more than embarrassed. So she met me at the university where I went, where she also was one of the staff doctors. So I went over there, met her over there, and I said, Dr. Villani, I have all this. Like, I think I have depression. Like, and she gave me a depression test, and she's like, yeah, it looks like you do. And we set up a plan, which included talk therapy, which, believe it or not, was awesome. Like, it was just to talk to someone who doesn't really know. Well, she didn't know me. She didn't know me from anyone. Like, so I talked to her for about maybe 3 or 4 months, either weekly or bi-weekly. But it was just good to just get whatever was on my mind, off, just to talk to someone who didn't know me, who couldn't prejudge it, for lack of a better word, and who really, she wasn't trying to fix me as much, like just to listen. And then, eventually she would give some suggestions, like, have you thought about this or this? But not that she was saying, well, you need to do this. It was more, have you thought about this? Like, kind of putting the ball in my court. So doing that, and I was on antidepressant. They did put me on an antidepressant. And before you know it, within a couple months, I didn't have to go back to talk therapy. Even the therapist said, Jim, I think you're good. And, like, as far as, I think you're good enough where you don't need to see me anymore. And like, I still take the antidepressants. I still have anxiety. But, fortunately, the depression is pretty much at bay. Like, I've kind of, that one seems to be in I don't want to say gone, but controlled, for lack of a better word. I don't feel the way that I used to during those 100 days. So that's kind of where it started. And then, from that point on, it was kind of like my promise to, I'm a Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, and I'm very, my religion, my faith really helped me a lot. The friends that I was blessed to have around me, my dog, who, he's no longer with us. He passed away about 10 years ago, but who basically would come up to me and, without saying it in exact words, say, I need to take you for a walk. And I just, like, he knew, like, he just, there was, and he knew, so he would go for a little walk, but I would always feel better. And so that's kind of where it started. But like, my goal was, because I lost those 100 days, Harry, I wanted to get those 100 days back. Now, can I really get them back? No, but maybe symbolically I can. So one thing I started to do is, when I started to walk, it became maybe a mile, maybe 2 miles, 3 miles, like a 5 kilometer, 3 kilometer, 4 kilometer. And then I eventually trained for a 5K, 3 miles. And I felt good about it. I was like, this running, this endorphin rush is awesome. Like, your body's own way of, like, your happy juice, really, like, your body's producing this, and then before you know it, and I did this probably the wrong way. So I went from a 5K to training for a 42K, otherwise known as a marathon. And yeah, so, put it this way, do as I say, not as I do. I'll put it that. But like, it was my way of kind of telling depression that, like, I don't know how to put it. Like, just saying, like, you don't control me, I control you, if that makes any sense. Like, and so I started to train for, my first marathon, Steamtown Marathon in Scranton, which ironically enough, we were talking before, is where The Office is based out of, the television show, one that I absolutely love. But, I did that one. And after the lactic acid and the pain, wore off, it eventually dawned on me that this is my way of getting back my 100 days that I lost. So I'm on a mission now to finish 100 marathons in my lifetime, and I finished 21. So most recently I did 4 marathons in 4 months, and that was 2016. And the reason I had to stop in 2016 was because I started my doctoral studies, which were incredibly intense. And yeah, I could train maybe to do a 5K, but you're not training for a marathon when you're going, like, I couldn't. There's just no way, shape, or form. So, that's kind of the journey there. But going back to that, the reason I said there might be 2 journeys here is because when I was 13, I had what was known as a seizure, grand mal seizure. So the convulsing, what have. There's no history of that in my family. None, zero, nada. Like, so, my neurologist, when I, have seen my neurologist, he's actually like a friend now because we have a relationship over 20 years. He had told me that the chemical imbalance that occurred due to the seizure condition might have just continued on and may have been part of the cause of the clinical depression. I don't know that for a fact. He doesn't know that for a fact. So one day I'll ask God if that's the reason, but I have no clue. You know what I mean? Like, but that's why I said there's 2 potential beginnings. The one when I was 13, but at that point I was fine. Like, as far as, like, I didn't have any depression or any symptoms that I was aware of, but that could have been the impetus, the start of something that happened 13 years later. So that's, for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, no, depression, it's strange, right? Because so many little things can be the cause, and it's impossible, not impossible, but it's so hard to pinpoint one thing where it's like, yeah, that's the reason. And then that's in one individual, let alone like every individual on the planet, because everyone goes through stuff. And, that's a reason why I personally think there's so much stigma around it, is because it is almost impossible to understand why each person gets the depression that they get or gets that low point that they get, because there's so many different factors to take in.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. Like, even for me, like, it was, let's say that the seizure condition, because it's controlled now. I take medicine for it, and that's why I have no hair. But I'm okay with that. I'd rather be without hair and be alive. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that. Yeah. So, but that plus at that point in time in my life, it was February. February is a very depressing month. Like, in general, like weather-wise. So we were talking about the weather before. Just a very, very, very depressing month. Like, it's just very blah. Very, like, ugh. And I don't do winter activities. So I'm not a skier. I don't go, like, I have cabin fever, like, in that point in time. And then at that point also, I was kind of getting burned out, I think, from my career. Like, I worked at my church and I enjoyed it. It was great. I loved it. There were opportunities for me to do service trips, and speaking Spanish, I was a translator, changed my life entirely to go to El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, all on service trips. And I really got to meet people who totally changed my life. But I think at that point in time, it was almost like I had another calling where I think that the combination of those three might have kind of told me like, all right, it just may have caused the chemical imbalance to come back, for lack of a better word. Like situational, I guess, might be the best way of putting it. Like maybe something that was already there through the seizure condition, but then maybe situational, combining the three, and that could have caused it. I don't know that for fact, but that's how I am rationalizing it, and I sleep better at night just knowing, okay, this is what I think it is. That's my educated guess.
Yeah. The way I can compare it is with a physical thing I went through. When I was a swimmer, I went through a really bad back injury, like pretty much ended my career. Not that I was going anywhere with it. Like I was going to retire after that season anyway, but it kind of ended it earlier than I would have liked.
Sure.
And the reason it started with some hits in high school rugby that really inflamed my discs and kind of got it going.
Yeah.
But once I was in a situation in university where like I hadn't stretched, I was swimming 8 to 10 times a week. I was lifting super heavy weights. That's kind of when it really poured over the top. That's kind of how I can relate to the depression. Like people, if we looked at depression more like a physical strain or a physical injury, I feel like people would be more understanding and more willing to learn about it. Like at the end of the day, the brain's a muscle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and like I've even seen like there's tests that can demonstrate the amount of like the chemical imbalance that potentially exists in certain people now that they're actually do exist. So it's important, I think, that science and like doctors demonstrate that, because I think they can help to maybe mitigate the stigma, to a certain degree with some of what is actually out there. But yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think just more people talking about it. Because put it this way here, based on what you said too, you're not going to tell someone who, like I'm asthmatic, you're not going to tell someone who's asthmatic, well, you just need to breathe more air.
Could you imagine?
I'm like, I won't even tell you what I'll tell that person. You know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to tell someone who's asthmatic, you're not going to tell someone who needs triple bypass surgery, like, I don't even know what to say, because it's almost ridiculous thing. Like you just need to man up. You need to, I don't know, get more blood in your system. Yeah, sure. Good luck with that. You know what I mean? Like, or you're not going to tell someone, and I hate, like, who has cancer, like, just get rid of your cancer. It doesn't work that way. Like, I've had people close to me who unfortunately have died of cancer. I would never in a million years think of saying something like that to them. They need support. Just like, any of us who are going through something like mental health challenges need support, and like I was blessed that when I was going through mine, I had great support, and which was like they went, well, some of them were family, like really blood family, but some of them were good friends that became like family. Like basically they are my like extended family because of the support that they gave me, because I think you have to have that. And even just now, like the transition, getting out of depression, for anybody, you have to surround yourself with what I call good people, like people that are going to support you. And even for me, 20 years down the road, the same thing. But now I can kind of choose more so who I surround myself with. Like one thing I coach soccer and I teach, and I tell a lot of my students and my athletes, I said, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. So choose those 5 people wisely. Because if you don't choose them wisely, you're going to be the average of, if it's someone who uses drugs, who uses alcohol, who maybe is involved in activities that are not the best activities, well, you're going to be part of that. You're going to be the average of that, So you need to look for the people that are going to be there and support you in a good way, and like find the better way to overcome, like people who are going to be more. Well, here, an example for me. For the people that I surround myself with aren't even people. One of them is my wife, obviously. So but then like I introduced you to my dog before. The other ones are, I have 3 dogs and I have a cat. Well, there's 4 plus the 1, so we have 5 here, but they just want to love and be loved. That's really it. So it's just having that positive, I think, support, and we're going to have our down days. Like, especially in the winter for me, it's just not, it's not, and that's usually when I would go to the gym more so because of the fact that I need to go to the gym. Like, it's almost like all this stress that comes to head, and I'm like, I have to release it somehow, and unfortunately with the gym not being, for me, not a choice right now, there are times like we were talking before, like maybe it's 0, like centigrade 32, and I bought running pants that are for cold weather, and I'm just going to go for 1 mile, 2 miles, whatever. But then I feel better. And it's just, it clears my head. I'll blast, not blast, but I'll listen to music. I'm one of those people who I need to have music on, but it might be more music for me, at least. I'm more of a child of the 80s and 90s music. I won't lie to you, but I like music like that maybe it brings me back to my childhood where there's simpler times and I just feel more relaxed and I feel more like the kid who can be more carefree as opposed to one who has to like tackle on, the world. So, and I think we all need that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Sometimes feeling like a kid is like the most simple way to just feel better. They're just so carefree.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why some people even say, how do you teach middle school kids, 7th and 8th grade, they're 12 and 13. Oh my gosh, I can't believe, how do you do that? I said, because I wouldn't want to teach any other age, because those kids are like, I learned so much about life from those kids, just about appreciating the moment, about, it's okay to be a little wacky and goofy, and when it's time to do your business, like to study, you got to study. But at the same time, like, just, it's okay to just not take everything so seriously, and I do love, like, I coach high school as well. And I love coaching that age too, as same with middle school, but it's just nice to be around people who, not going to lie, sometimes I wind up acting like a 12 or 13-year-old, just because it's just nice to be able to do that. And when you're surrounded by them all the time, I have, even my students, they think it's like I do a British accent and they're like, oh, Senor Shoopack, can you do your British accent for us? And I'll do it. And I'm like, and I even feel better about myself. Like, they think it's, can you do British accent with somebody speaking Spanish? And I'll be sure. All right. But I'm not every day. But it's kind of like just living in the moment and just not being a little more carefree. And like we were saying too before, Harry, like talking about comedies, like just laughing and just not having to worry about the seriousness of life that really is here, and it's here to stay, so being able to take a step back and just watch TV for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. And, I'll binge watch The Office and I'm literally crying and my stomach hurts. And, we were talking about the Impractical Jokers. That's even more so of laughter and crying. I mean, like, I'll be on the floor literally laughing my butt off. And it's just great because that's an endorphin rush in itself. Kind of like the runner's high. I call it the laugher's high. I even tell some of my friends, I said, not only do I have, exercise-induced asthma, I have like laughter-induced asthma to a certain degree, because if I laugh too much, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta like relax. I have to settle down, but it's a nice challenge to have it, for lack of a better word, because it means I am laughing that much. It means that like the endorphin rush is running through and I'm feeling good about myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And comedy, I like comedians got me through some of the pandemic. I'm going to be honest, like just comedy where it's like, it doesn't even have to be that like no thinking dumb comedy, which is amazing, but like even the smarter jokes, just to be able to sit down and laugh at things that are going on, like it's so valuable. Like once we get out of this, and I think in the States they're starting to open up again, but comedy stores are going to explode, in my opinion, I think anyway, because everyone needs a laugh. They just need to laugh about something.
Yep. No, well, I laugh at this because, again, going back to Impractical Jokers, one of my Christmas presents for my wife, not this past Christmas, but the Christmas prior, were tickets to see the Impractical Jokers. Well, that got postponed for obvious reasons. Well, then it was supposed to be in, I think, August of this year. It got postponed again until, April, I think, of 2022. But that being said, my wife has seen them in concert show, whatever you want to call it. But she said it's like, yes, they are funny, but there's certain things that they do say that do get you to think, but they get you to laugh hysterically too. Like on the show, it's more, what can I do to get this person to not do what I want them to do? But there it seems like there's a little bit more I don't want to say thought process too, because there's thought process on the show, but thought process as far as maybe thinking outside the box a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Impractical Jokers, man, they got me through some rough parts of uni. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
they're so funny.
And like I told you before, like I put them in my dissertation, like they're in my acknowledgments of my dissertation, just because, like just the stresses of academic, like just not working, but like studying. You need to have that outlet, and from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. almost every day, almost. I mean, there's times I would fall asleep watching them, and I'd wake up, it's 2 a.m, and I'm like, oh, I better go to bed. But still, like, they beyond helpful. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, no, I love them. I wanted to go back a little bit because I read in I don't want to say where it was because I don't remember, but you mentioned somewhere that you had an out of body experience.
Yes.
In your depression. What was that out of body experience?
Well, what it was, Harry, is that, like, and remember, I go back to me being Catholic, and it was 100 days like that I was really going through. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was hell. It really was hell. Like, and as far as that was concerned, I prayed every single day. I was like, God, either take me. I'm not going to do it myself, but either take me or make me feel better, please. One or the other. I'm glad he chose the reason, the path that I'm on. But at that point in time, you just want to get through the next second, the next minute, the next hour. You're not thinking 20 years down the road. You're thinking 20 seconds down the road, and for me, at my worst moment, Harry, when I tell you, and I've never used drugs, no alcohol, nothing. But the one night, I swear to you, I was out of my body and I saw the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And I swear, in the corner of my parents' house, and I'll tell you what, I learned that night I have the fear of God, because my gosh, when I woke up, my heart was beating out of my chest. And I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. And for me, it's like, I'm very humbled to be able to say that, because I'm not worthy of that. And you know what I mean? But I think that was maybe the push that I needed, that, like, God was like, I'm listening and I got you. Like, because it was just, and I tell you what, every stuffed animal that I've ever had throughout my entire life, I probably was sleeping with that stuffed animal that night, because it was just that, intense. But at that point in time, from that day on, everything got better. It was just like the first step to realize, like, yes, you've hit rock bottom, but here's the plan is coming. And I mean, I'm blessed to say that from that point on, like, finishing, the marathons, getting my doctorate, like doing all this service work, that all came after the fact. So it was almost like I was able to use that to hopefully help other people. Really, that's my goal, was to give back. They say, like, it really, the secret of life is finding your gift and giving it away. And that's hopefully what I've found, is like this, my gift is overcoming the depression and having that message and being able to help other people. Unfortunately, I was blessed to have you give me that opportunity, because hopefully if there's one person listening whose life that we can, realize that, to show them, like, there is hope on the other side. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm good. I've done my job. Like, I don't even call it a job. It's like a calling almost. Like, and like, not to go back to this, but like, having gone to El Salvador, one of their big people in El Salvador, national hero, is a guy named Monsignor Oscar Romero, who he died for talking in favor of the poor. I mean, and when I say poor, I'm talking like impoverished people who didn't have basically a shirt on, like that. He was known as a voice for the voiceless. But I've gone and I've seen where he was, unfortunately killed, his room. I've seen the clothes he was wearing when he was killed. I've seen where his tomb is. And I think he's kind of inspired me to be a different type of voice. And like yourself, even a voice for the people who are suffering from mental health challenges, because I think we do have that. How would I put it? The fact that, we're talking about this now means that we have that, like, I don't want to call it a duty, but almost like an obligation to help other people because we feel strong enough in who we are. Like that's just my 2 cents, my opinion, but I see it as like being a voice for those who can't speak for themselves because maybe they're not strong enough yet, but they will be. They just have to follow, the right path. And I mean, I do the same thing for rescue pets because rescue animals don't have a voice, and I see myself as a voice for the voiceless. We have 3 rescue pets at home. That's a totally different aside, but still, I like to think he inspired me and spiritually to do that.
Yeah. No, it's when I like, so I know, because I believe my calling is similar to yours in the sense that I want to be that voice for people. And when people ask me all the time, like, how do you do, the podcast for however long or however frequently you do it, it doesn't, like, I don't even think about it. It's not like I'm like, oh, I have to do this and that and that. It's like, this is like, I get to sit down and talk to people about things that I'm passionate about. Like, come on, man. It's a hobby, but like, it's so fun. I don't even see it as an obligation. What was I going to say? Sometimes, you forget the impact you have by sharing your story. And I know I've done that personally, where like I'll share my story and I don't think anything of it because in my head, my whole life, I've just assumed that I'm the same as everyone. I'm not interesting. And then you'll get the messages of people who have been touched by what you've said. And that's when you kind of go like, oh yeah, right. Like this is bigger than me.
Yeah. No.
Like, yeah.
I've had the same thing happen to me here. Like I one of the marathons I did, actually a friend of mine who was doing one of the marathons, her brother had a plan to kill himself. And when she did the marathon and I did, he didn't. And it got him talking about like, wait, I feel the same way that he feels. So, and he's married, has a family. And it's like, I've had other people who have reached out to me because, I'll post on my Facebook account, like I was blessed to have this great conversation with Harry today, and it'll be, whenever it comes out, I'll make sure to post it for you guys to listen to. I've had people reach out from other, podcasts that I've been blessed to be on, and they might be people that I haven't talked to in years. And they'll say, Jim, I know you're really like a huge advocate and you're very open about your mental health. My friend is having some issues here. Can you give me some suggestions? And then I'll ask them some questions and blah, 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 and it's just, it's kind of like when I hear that and I hear, okay, this person didn't, kill themselves because I talked about, it's a very humbling feeling. Like, I mean, for me, it is like, but I realize like, I found my path. That's what I'm supposed to do. Like because it's like, I don't want to call it a power, but it's almost like overcoming. It's almost like there's certain information, certain knowledge that we possess that other people don't, that we, it's like having a gift of overcoming in my opinion. And here it's like, we're able to give that gift away, not in that just, I don't want anyone else to experience what I went through ever, but to at least educate other people where they realize like, hey, I know somebody who feels that way or felt that way. Can they come talk to you? I was like, yeah, no problem. You can talk to me. I'll be happy to talk to them. And it's just, I want to say it's cool to talk, but I think it's important to talk about that. Like, like just because it breaks down barriers and it opens up lines of communication. I've had, other students who, when I talked about, to larger groups about things, they've even said like, hey, I talked to my dad because I felt the way that you did. And lo and behold, I do have some like, some depression and anxiety. And I want to thank you for talking about it because I have been in a fog recently and I didn't know and it's like, like you said, it's bigger than us, but it's cool to play a role. And it's like, for me, it's like, it's nice to be able to do that to help other people because you start to see the successes that people have in getting the help and really living their true authentic self.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an experience where a guy that I hadn't talked to in over a decade, he like reached out to me through DM and I FaceTimed him, and we talked for the first time in like over 10 years. It might have been 12 years. And like that night he was going to end it.
No kidding.
And he wasn't following my page, but he saw it on his Explorer, and then that stopped him.
That's
and
awesome.
When you get calls like that, it's like I don't know, it kind of makes you take a step back. And you're like, sometimes like it's hard to find the value in what you do. And I'm not trying to, bash advocacy or anything. I love what I do, but sometimes it's hard to find the value just because at the end, it's just me in my closet,
Right.
like sometimes it's everything's through a screen, everything's through social media. So it's just, sometimes it feels like I'm on my own, and sometimes it feels like I'm just talking to a brick wall because,
Right.
you get the news outlet or the news and things in the media, and you read comments and you just assume that we're going backwards in terms of progress. But then you get a text like that and you're like, it puts things back into perspective.
Oh yeah. Like, and it just shows you like how that I think people want help. Like, people really want help. They just sometimes don't know how to get that help. But I give that individual props for reaching out, because I mean, for me, I know that first step to getting help and admitting I needing help was probably the toughest step I took in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's like I'm living in my own head. I'm like, what happens after I say how I feel? I don't know what's going to happen. How are my parents going to, how my brother's going to, how's this person going to react? But then once I got the help, and I remember the doctor, she told me this, and when I was, embarrassed, and she said, Jim, I'm going to tell you something. You're not the first person I've ever seen who I've diagnosed with clinical depression, and you sure as heck are not going to be the last. So she said, you're one of many. And I mean, look at this, Harry. I don't know if this is the world, but I know in the United States at least, and I call this kind of symbolic with the whole marathon thing, at least in the US being 26.2 miles. They said that approximately 26.2% of the population will suffer a mental health challenge during their lifetime. What's one out of every four? And here we're talking, people talk about, and I'm asthmatic. So if you have, asthma, this is what you should do. You take your inhaler, you take other medicine, make sure you go out, whatever, blah, blah. But no one thinks any different about asthma. It's, if you are having, issues with maybe a muscle, or you tear a muscle, okay, you get an MRI, blah, blah, maybe you have surgery. Okay, everyone's signing your cast, but it's kind of like when you talk about, like, I think, I have a chemical imbalance. Well, there's one out of every four people, at least, we're going to say approximately, who 25%. That's a large part of the population of the entire world. If you look at, say, if there's 8 billion people in the world, like, that's 2 billion people. Like, that's significant. So why are we not talking about that as much, if not more, than what we're talking about some of the other, ailments that people have that are still important. Don't get me, very important, but it's kind of like that mind-body connection, like even just physical and mental connection, because it needs to be talked about, because it's not like, it's a small, like, 0.25%. No, it's 25%. Like, in the nuclear family, say if there's 4 people in the family, 1 out of every 4 is going to have that. Like, I look in my classrooms, and there's 20 students in my classes. That means there's probably about 5 students who at some point in their life are going to have something. I would say that's pretty significant. That's that's something that needs to be talked about a lot more. And even it's still, swept under the carpet certain times. Or, certain families don't want to talk about what's going on. Oh, like, well, he's having some, issues right now, blah, blah, blah. Or he's a little, like, and I hate the word crazy. I won't even go into that. Like, and as far as like, oh, that he's crazy. I'm like, no, he needs help. And you're just exacerbating the stigma that exists. You need to watch your language. I'm not talking. I mean, the person who's saying it. Like, no, but I'm saying, like, it's like he has a chemical imbalance, or she has. And right now he's getting, or she's getting, help for that. He's going to talk therapy, and it's no different than you taking a puffer on your inhaler, or you taking extra medicine, or like in my case for my, seizure disorder, taking valproic acid and getting an MRI every once in a while, or blood tests to see what for me, the valproic acid is in my blood system. There's no, why are we talking about one a lot more than the other when, like I said, 25%, my gosh, man, that's a lot, so imagine the difference that could be made if the stigma was changed, where, and I strongly believe, even just us talking about it, and there are other people out there that are like that will hopefully mitigate some of the stigma that exists. But I think a lot of it happens in small communities. Like, you have to start in a small community and have advocacy groups and people who, like ourselves, who are very passionate about it, who are going to be the person who is that voice for the voiceless, and say, no, we've had this and we need to do something about it. This isn't something that sweeps under the carpet. You don't sweep asthma under the carpet. You don't sweep cancer under the carpet. You don't sweep a broken bone under the carpet. So why are we sweeping this under the carpet? Why are we not talking about it more? Sorry, I didn't. I'll get off my but it's like that. You can see I'm like you are, just very passionate about it.
Yeah, of course. I think the problem, not problem, but the thing for a lot of people is when you hear 1 in 4. Yes, it's a huge 2 billion people if you take that, and that's I almost feel like that's lowballing it now. But
right, I think so too.
But if you take 1 in 4 and you don't take into account the amount of people in the world, because 8 billion is really hard to fathom.
Right.
But just hearing 25%, you're like, oh, that's not even that bad. From a numbers perspective, I think that's what some people look at it as. They're like, yeah, 1 in 4, that's nothing. It's no, that's actually a lot of people.
That's a lot. Yeah.
2 billion people.
Yeah. Well, and like we're saying too, in the nuclear family, say if there's 4 people, one person in that family most likely will have some sort of, mental health challenge in their life. So in every family of 4, that's the approximate. So even looking at it that way, it's definitely high. Put it this way: the opportunity. That's a bad word. Useful. The chance that it will affect each family in some way, shape, or form is definitely significant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The other thing I think that should be fixed, especially in Western civilization, like North America and Europe and stuff, the way we view therapy, not view therapy, but the way therapy is given to us, I think too often we try to address the symptoms as opposed to the solution. So when people are like, yeah, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, the therapists and doctors, and I'm not bashing them by any means, it's just the system that we've grown up with. They go for the symptoms as opposed to going, well, what's going on at home? Or
right.
There was a study that I was reading about that they some doctors went to Cambodia, I believe it was Cambodia, and they were trying to introduce antidepressants to that community, and there was never ever any pill kind of antidepressant for these people. And the doctors were like, well, how do you deal with the people who go through depressive moments or periods or have depression, anxiety? And they basically told them we give them a cow, and it sounds strange, but having that animal to care for, and then that community of other cow owners and farmers and everything, introducing that person into a community with a new purpose for life, changed them dramatically, as opposed to just giving them an antidepressant, which I was on them too. I don't bash them, but I feel like there's a different way that we should go about therapy. I feel like antidepressants are helpful, but I feel like we've almost made therapy an individual kind of process as opposed to a communal process.
No, I agree. And it seems like in some of these countries outside the first world countries, for lack of a better word, many of in the first world, it seems like we're very siloed to a certain degree where there isn't as much community as there could be. Meanwhile, in some of these other countries, like from my service trips, like I said, the El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, there seems to be more of a sense of community in those countries that I have ever experienced in the United States or in other trips to other first world countries. So I think, I think what Cambodia's doing is awesome. Like, because we were talking about dogs before, like, here's the one who's on my lap now, but he, caring for another animal and just it makes you feel so much better. Like, I have to give this animal care. I have to provide for it. Like, it gives you almost a purpose. It really does give you that purpose. Like, the cow needs me to wake up. The cow needs me to feed it. The cow needs me, or the dog or the cat or whatever pet that might be. And I strongly believe in pet therapy for sure. Like, I've had friends who go, who just went for therapy, a friend for horse. It was in Florida for horses. And, he kind of came back and he very changed because of the fact just that connection you have with the horse. And it could be, again, it doesn't have to be a horse, but in his case it was. But I do think that does play a big role in it. It can just, even if a person can't have a pet, maybe volunteer at a shelter, a pet shelter. I mean, and just be around pet, because as you're aware, Harry, there's just such an aura of love of these, dogs, cats, that they want to love and be loved, and I think that in itself it's kind of an antidepressant in itself, really, so, and I think just seeing the joy that the pets see, or another animal that, like I said, it could be a cow or a horse or anything, has when you are helping it. I mean, like, just the joy in their face, and they want to lick you and they want you to whatever, like, you can't help but be happy, or at least put a smile on your face. So I totally get it. But going back to what you said, and I apologize, Harry, like, yeah, it seems like there's more community at least in my experience. Again, this is just my experience, in some of these third world countries where they realize, like, I need you to help me, but you also need me to help you, and we'll work together. Where, I don't know, here, at least in the United States in general, I see a lot of more silo. Like, this is my silo, this is your silo, that is just, and it's more in some of the urban, like the inner city communities, I have seen more community related help. I don't, and I'm sure you're going to still see your silos there as well. But
yeah, I my one of my best friends, he's Colombian, and his family and him are super, super close, like, amazing. And like, I considered myself close with my family, but when you compare it to that, I'm like, yeah, we really are fairly isolated in our society now. It's just so competitive. It's like a dog eat dog world out there.
It's funny, and I laugh when you say Colombian, because I'm Colombian. On my mom's side, I'm first generation. Yeah, she was born in Neiva, Huila. No, not Neiva. San Agustin. I don't expect you to know what that it is, but in Colombia, and she had 9 brothers and sisters. But the reason I laugh is on WhatsApp, I'm texting my one cousin who I'm really close with. We must text 100 times a day. And I mean, I text him more than I text some of my friends here in the United States, who I still text a lot, but like, we're texting, and we'll text the most random nonsense stuff. But yeah, so going back to that, same thing, like in Colombia, like, I'm texting her, I'm my aunt, who's also my godmother, my mom's sister, like, I'll be calling her, texting her, whatever. WhatsApp is one of the greatest creations. That's far, I don't work for them or anything like that, but I'll tell you what, it definitely has helped bring us closer together, even though they're 3,000 plus miles away. It seems like they're right next door. Yeah, so I totally can understand and appreciate that, as far as the Colombian aspect. So for sure, 100%. And I mean, in Latin America in general, I've seen that a lot with families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like a whole tight knit vibe to it. Mm-hmm. And as a family man myself, I'm like, oh, that's so nice. Yeah, that's so awesome.
No, I agree 100%. Like, and like I said, I'm super close with a lot of my cousins, even some that are second, third, fourth cousins. I'm closer to them than maybe some cousins that I have here in the U.S. that are maybe second, cousins. Well, not that I'm not close to them. I am close to them, but I'm talking more to the ones that live 3,000 miles away than maybe ones that live, a couple hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I can totally appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. When you started opening up about how you were feeling, when did you become a teacher? Was this around the same time?
This
Or was
was
it later?
actually, it was late. I became a teacher 2007. This happened, let me see, 2001 is
Mm-hmm.
when it occurred. And then by the time I really started talking out about it was more 2003, 2004, 2005. Like once I felt like I was in a really good place with it. And again, it's just like I felt like it was something I was supposed to do, but yeah, like even people have said, like, don't you, does it ever cross your mind, like if some people might not like what you're saying or this? I said, honestly, I don't care what other people think. I know I'm helping people who need to be helped, and the people who think differently, that's fine. Because when they need help, guess who they're going to go to? They're going to go to me, So I'm kind of like, I'm just being authentic. I'm being myself. My goal is to help people. It's like, I don't care what other people think of me. This is who I am. And this is what, like, it is what it is, so it's just, for me, I just want to help as many people and educate and just kind of be, again, like I go back to Oscar Romero's Monsignor Oscar, like the voice for the voiceless, just to provide that, and like I've talked to some of my soccer girls about it, and they're soccer players, but I call them soccer because they'll always be my kids, to a certain degree, like, and a lot of them know that I'm going through anxiety, or have, that I have it, and that I used to have depression, and a lot of them themselves have, but they know, well, shoot, that's what they call me, shoot, SHOOP. That's just, whatever, has gone through stuff. So they know, like, they can reach out to me if they ever have any, and like their parents know that too, and so it's like, it's nice to be able to be that person who, if they are going through something that maybe is similar to what I did, hopefully they never do. But even if it's just the beginnings of it, well, they know they can talk to me, and I could kind of give them suggestions or some ideas, and it's nice to be able to be that person who can hopefully guide them in the right direction. Because I can't diagnose anyone, I can't give anyone medicine if they want medicine. I can't do that, but I can say, this is what happened to me, this is what I did, this is what worked for me. And some doctors can't say from experience, well, when I had depression, that they went to medical school, and which thank God they did, because we need more people who are advocates for mental health, but they might not have that experience that we had, like that, with the could say, well, this is how I felt. Some of them might not be able to say, well, this is what the book says. Okay, well, that, which is fine, you need to have that, but I think having that person that you can connect with one-to-one is so important, because they realize that they're not alone. They realize that there's other people who have gone through it, and they realize that there's somebody that they can talk to, because it's not at first the easiest thing to necessarily talk about, but once you get into it and you really do, it's like you realize, like, we're not really that much different,
Yeah.
Like from anybody else, like no one's that much different. So
yeah, there's a lot of value in having a coach or a teacher that has gone through it themselves. Like I never had that as a kid. So most coaches I had, or teachers I had, they just didn't get it. And they, like, I mean, the older generations, they just refuse to learn. So having someone that goes through it, I feel like that's, like, how could you be mad at that? Seriously, like,
right.
They're not gonna, like, you're never gonna go diagnose a kid, and you're never gonna go give them strict follow these rules. But to say, like, hey, I get it, I've been there. Like, when a kid's looking for answers, like, that, it doesn't get more valuable than that.
Yeah, and even their parents too, because the parents in themselves are probably like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get this, I don't know who to talk to. Well, then you have someone there that you can talk to. And that, I think that it helps them. And if anything, because that's a lot, I'm sure, like when the parent is, the kid's asking for help, and if the parent doesn't know where to go, that's a lot of extra stress on them. And if they realize like, oh, well, I can talk to him or I can talk to her, or, they're open about, okay, well then at least that way I can get answers. And that's where I think people really want is they want answers on where to go next. How can I get help to make my daughter or my son, my cared for one, feel better or get better or, get a better quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think it's definitely going in the right direction. I think there's more parents opening up and asking for advice and help. And there's definitely more kids opening up about what they're going through just because of conversations like this. Like the amount of young men that I've talked to who open up about their experiences and they're like 19, 18. I'm like, man, if I would have never done that, I would have been terrified to do what you just casually slipped out to me through a Zoom call. It's like you can see the change happening. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's just so important. And I think maybe just hopefully the society in general is starting to open up a little bit more. And especially with COVID, like the numbers of people who are now going through some sort of mental health challenges. I know the hospitals are like filled and what have you. And it's almost forcing more people to talk about it because they have to, and if anything, that's one thing I, just from reading articles to talking to people here, like they've even told me like a lot of the hospitals are filled with kids who unfortunately are going through their own mental health challenges, but it kind of is maybe opening up, helping the hospitals and just helping society realize like we need to talk about this more. It's not just like kids being kids, because those kids are eventually going to be adults who deserve a better quality of life, and the parents hopefully, because that's so important to have that family support, and just being able to open up that line of communication and just having that family support where you can say like, oh, man, I don't feel myself, something is wrong. And having, like not having a dad or mom say, oh, just, man up or just leave me alone. Well, then of course you're not going to go back to that parent anymore because they're not going to listen to you, so it's like, where do you go next? So I think having that family support is just so important, because if you don't, if you can't trust your family, then it's like, who knows where you might wind up going? Because again, I go back to like the average of the 5 people you spend, with the time with the most, and finding people who hopefully will lead you to the right path is important. And that's where schools also play a role with, guidance counselors, school psychologists, where they can hopefully do more with promoting mental health awareness and mental health, just opportunities to promote mental health and just promote, how would I put it? Mitigating the stigma through like education, with kids and with parents. I think that goes same with any school anywhere in the world, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. When's the next marathon for you, Jim?
Well, hopefully 2022. Hopefully it'll probably be in the fall 2022, if all goes well, Harry. Because again, like the doctoral work, the last 4 years with not being able, you know what I mean? Like training for a marathon is definitely it's a life-changing experience in many ways, and for me right now, with not going to the gym, and I coach soccer now, so it's like my days are like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 p.m. But once I get into May, then I can start running. But I'm not ready for this fall. And my hope is next fall. Maybe it'll be at the same one I did before Scranton Marathon. There's a Steamtown Marathon, which is awesome. That was my first one. And it's just, the support's great. Everything about that marathon is fantastic. It's a very good mid-sized marathon. Like, I don't work for Steamtown Marathon. I'm just saying it as a runner. I've done that one maybe 6 times. I don't know, 6 or 7 times I've done that one. And there's a reason why I've gone back to that one so many times, because it's just such a good, well-supported, well-run, no pun intended, marathon. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, if you guys listening are in the area, be sure to check that marathon out. Jim, where can my viewers find you?
I mean, like right now, I do have a blog that I just started. It's called Mental Health Musings, which is just MHMUSINGS.com. And I mean, people are welcome to comment there. I have an Instagram called same thing, MHMUSINGS blog, BLOG. And, people are welcome to, follow me there, or they can, if they have questions, like if they can obviously come to me, contact me, but just let me know that they heard me on your show. So at least that way I can kind of, there's a reference point there. So definitely welcome to, find me in either place, and again, like for me, it's just a matter of sending the message that there is hope on the other side of the tunnel. And, I talked about one of my heroes is Winston Churchill, who himself suffered from depression, led England through World War II. And he said himself, when you're going through hell, keep going, so, like for me, it's just, sorry about that. That's my pup. But, when you're going through hell, just keep going. And for me, that's the big thing. That's the message. Like, but find the people who are going to hold your hand and are going to take you to the other side. Really, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. When you're going through hell, keep going. Wise words from Jim. Thank you, sir, for this. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Harry. And thank you to the listeners, the watchers. Again, guys, like, life gets better. You just have to, asking for help is probably the most heroic thing you can do for yourself. That's how you can be your own superhero. Like, in my opinion, because when you're not sure about what's going on and just getting help, if you're a guy, you're a girl, it doesn't matter. Just find that person who will lend you that support and who will give you the help, and you don't have to run a marathon. Like, exercise was important for me, but you could just go for a walk around the block. That's fine too. Like you said before, Harry, be with nature. I mean, nature's such a great thing. And just, it can be, if you want to do like a 1K, like just literally 1 kilometer, that's how I started. And I'm not saying you have to do 42. Trust me, I don't know. Most people maybe not want to do that. But not trying to discourage people, but I'm just saying, like, I'd be happy to help anyone who's interested in doing that, because that's where I'm, going to eventually get back to next. And, there are dreams that you will accomplish and things that can accomplish when you become a, sorry about that. Sorry about that. He wanted to go down, but that are going to be there once you get better. Because like I said, like going for a doctorate, doing 100 marathons, things like that. Before I was depressed, I would have never really thought about doing that. So it's kind of like you realize you have that one opportunity that we're here in life, and you want to make the most out of it. And, these were my dreams, my aspirations. Everyone has their own. And once you have your calling, just go with it, because it's a cool ride.
Yes, sir. I couldn't agree more, man. And to all my viewers, I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, thanks for watching another episode of my show. If you want more episodes of the H Panel, the button's going to be right here. If you want to subscribe for more videos from myself, it'll be right down below. Please like, comment, share, give 5 stars. Let's keep this conversation going, guys, all right? I'll see you next time. Thank you for your support.